This episode of our podcast is the replay of our open forum. Open forum is an open conversation where we talk about whatever those in attendance want to discuss. We can talk about politics, deep theological questions. It's literally open forum. It's whatever you guys want to talk about. So if you ever want to join us live, go to churchforentrepreneurs.com, click on the calendar, look for open forum, get the Zoom information, and join us live. All right, let's get into this open forum. Hey, go ahead, Toya.
Yeah, I'm gonna start an argument.
Okay. So I do open forum, right?
So my friend sent me this video and I
Okay.
was like, oh my gosh, I'm still gonna send it to you. I was like, I'm gonna send it to Pastor Amos because he's definitely gonna have something to say about this, and he's definitely probably gonna create some type of TikTok video that'll go viral. So back to relationships.
Okay.
There is a school of thought
Mm-hmm.
that believes as a woman, you should only give 90% in a relationship, in your marriage
Mm-hmm.
specifically, because that 10% needs to be reserved for being a mother and, being a daughter and just for yourself. If
Mm-hmm.
and when the relationship kind of crashes and burns, which I'm like, red flag number one, why are you automatically thinking the relationship is going to crash and burn? But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I'll leave my comments out of this. Um, and of course, the man that was having this conversation with her was saying, but that doesn't make sense because when a man decides to marry a woman, he's giving his 100%. Like every
Mm-hmm.
single thing that he does, he's providing 100%. He's gonna love 100%. So if I'm giving 100 and you're giving 90 because you're like, you have to reserve whatever for doing other things, then it's an unequally yoked relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I want your thoughts on that.
I think I saw that, and
You did?
yeah, but I didn't quite understand. I think it was a lady saying it. Right? It was a lady, right, saying it.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
90%.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't quite understand what she was trying to get. It's almost like she was saying that women should guard their heart, almost like don't get fully invested in your husband, don't get fully invested in a relationship, like don't fully give yourself into it just in case something doesn't happen, right? And as I was listening to her speak, and I think she's a single lady too, right? um and I that just further shows me how much, one, people are afraid of marriage. First of all, they're afraid of it. They want to create marriage in their own image. So basically, people are making up things about marriage as a way to protect themselves as they feel like it won't work out. To me, that's similar to uh, moms or grandmothers telling their daughters always have a side bank account just in case it doesn't work out. Right? It's just almost like this. You hide a little bit something just in case it doesn't work out. Right? It's almost like it's really a fear thing that you're afraid to give fully over your life to this relationship. You're still trying to hold something back. And that goes completely against how God describes marriage. God describes marriage as two becoming one, fully transparent, nothing hidden, nothing hold back, right? There's no more me, there's no more you, it's just us now, right? It's a oneness that's completely transparent. Um, that also goes along the same lines. Well, I did this one video, Tori, it's called Another Fight, about, I said, women, you got to share your body counts with your potential husband. And they went crazy on that one, right? And I was like, so you want to hide something from your future husband, right? Intentionally, right? I was like this, it doesn't make any sense, right? So it's almost like there's such a fear of being transparent with the person you're supposed to be one with. You can't literally, if you're hiding something, you literally can't be one, right? You literally just can't be one, right? So that's my thoughts on Tory. I think that sentiment falls in line with a lot of sentiments of this, almost like a prenuptial agreement. It's almost like, just in case it doesn't work out, let me hold something back, right? And I think that's the kind of the flow I get from those types of things. And then, you know, I mean, honestly, I mean, the divorce rate in America is pretty terrible, right? almost 50%. Most of the divorces are initiated by women, 70% initiated by women. And so when I have these conversations with people, it's usually women who are, I'm gonna say this word, not really kind of full in. They're trying to hold something back, and and so in some sense I understand it because, like I tell people, marriage is more dangerous for women than it is for men because you're really giving your life over to somebody who's supposed to lead you and somebody who's physically stronger than you too. If so, they want to take advantage, they could, right? So there's this fear of just fully giving in to a relationship, right? Um, and I think that's just detrimental to marriage because it's like it just stops the oneness. So, what's your thoughts on my thoughts, Tori, as I'm processing this with you?
Your it's exactly what I thought you were gonna say.
Hmm.
I was like, uh-oh. She need to have a counseling session with Pastor Amos. Let me
Hmm.
DM her. Um, but no, I mean it's the reality. And I just think that goes for anything, right? So as you were talking, I was thinking of it like from the standpoint of like business and entrepreneurship. Like, I remember you saying one time, you're either going to be all in or not. Like, there's
Yeah,
no plan B, C, D, or E. Because if you have that, then you're not really going to put in everything that you have. And so,
yeah,
it to me, it makes sense. And it is scary because that's opposite of what the world tells you. The world tells you you're supposed to have a backup plan, an emergency fund for the emergency fund.
hmm,
And then if you don't have that, then something's wrong with you. You're ill
yeah,
prepared. So
hmm,
whatever happens to you is because of your stupidity, right?
hmm,
So it's counterculture, which is why it is so controversial.
yeah, yeah. Scripture on purpose says it goes against the knowledge of this world, right? Intentionally, God says He does it intentionally. So the way God does things is backwards to the world. Um, and so and a lot of this stuff too is like, when you got so many examples of bad relationships, right? It's you when you have bad examples, then you start to create backup plans to prevent all the bad examples from happening, and not really realizing that, truly, if you understood what marriage was, you would be way more cautious about entering into marriage, first of all, right? Another thing I see too is like, and I put myself in this category because I didn't always do this right in my younger years. It's like, that natural desire to be with the opposite sex is a strong desire to be with the opposite sex. And so a lot of times we want to give into that desire without the full commitment of what marriage looks like, right? And so what that produces is a lot of what I call quasi marriages. So a lot of boyfriend, girlfriends, people sleeping together, living together, having kids together, but they're not fully committed, right? And in these kind of these weird non-fully committed states, you kind of get a lot of abuse, you get a lot of bad habits, a lot of bad behaviors, and it produces the wrong mindset for the real thing, right? So I think that's what's being produced. It's a producer wrong thing. Georgiana, you want to get some insight in this? I see you unmuted.
I'm sorry. No, no, no.
Oh, she just
Keep
unmuted.
on, keep
Okay.
on. So good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah. So it's just like it just breaks my heart every time. It's like every time I go and I talk about this issue on social media, I just feel the war between men and women. It's literally feel like a war, right? It's like, well, men is like, well, marriage is no good for men. Men should never get married. Women's like, I don't need men. I can do good over myself. And it's like it's just this war and this friction between the genders that is just not what God designed, right? And it's actually the curse, right? If you go in the book of Genesis, the curse says specifically that a woman will desire her husband, but her husband will rule over her, right? And so when you study out that scripture, a woman desiring her husband is not like it's a good thing. she's going to desire a husband's sense of a control thing. And when a husband rules over her, that's not like in a good servant leadership thing. That's more like in a dictator way, right? So the curse on marriage was that women would desire to control men and men would desire to dominate women. And so that's literally the curse, right? And so Jesus came to break the curse, but until you fully accept God, you're still functioning under the curse in marriage for a lot of people. So hey guys, Zoom lines are open. Anybody want to share any thoughts on this? Change the subject. We're here open forum, just dig into these concepts. So go ahead, Dylan.
I have a question. I guess I'm gonna go in line with my start a argument. Um, do you think that I guess the gender wars or the tension would subside if there are more men that are that value leadership in the biblical sense and are taking more accountability for some of the, I guess, the hurt that have been caused through time towards women? Um, or do you just think that um both, like, it needs to start with both genders?
Yeah. Somebody, I don't think this is going to happen, first of all, because it is the curse, right? So it's not like the Bible doesn't prophesy that things are going to get better. So I don't think it's going to actually get better, right? So, but it can get better for you guys who are believers, right? You know what to look for. But if I was to do a prescription, right, somebody will have to go first. Somebody would have to put their foot down and say, never again. Well, I'm not going to let the past define me, and I'm not going to propagate what's going forward. Right. So if men all of a sudden stop sleeping around with women, only waiting to get married, that'll put a stop to the whole thing, probably. Right. That'll probably stop all the manipulation. They'll stop all the hard feelings. You wouldn't have any more teenage pregnancy. You wouldn't have any more STDs. You basically will probably balance it out correctly because people will realize that, oh, I'm only supposed to get married one time in life, twice at most if my spouse dies. And the only person I'm supposed to literally sleep with is this one person for the rest of my life. I think that will put everything in a better perspective of what this thing called marriage is supposed to be. Right. So it will take some gender, or really both genders, to literally say and just not have sex. That will solve about 90% of the problems. That was about 90%. There'll still be a 10% there because there's some personality differences too that needs to be worked out. But I think just starting off the society on the right foot, if people just stop having premarital sex, that would be that'll probably be the best way to do it, right? I don't think it's going to happen, but that'd be I think the way to do it. I think what men can do outside of trying to change all of society is that I think men should learn about relationships, learn about what it means to actually be a husband, learn what it means to kind of navigate the emotions of women, learn what it means to actually, just be married for a long period of time, going with conflict and handling conflict and being selfless, not trying to be selfish. I think if men could kind of have that kind of training in marriage, and it would need to start at a young age too, right? It could, because if you're trying to do this when you're 20s, it's a little too late. But if you can start this kind of like in their middle school years, really teaching boys about being husbands and what it means, and the type of woman that they should be looking for, and the type of woman they shouldn't get involved in, right? And so what I saw for myself being of the male gender, I saw a lot of guys who started off kind of not religious, but they started off wanting to do the right thing, right? Then they met a woman who cheated on them, did something wrong to them, and that turned their heart, and they became just ruthless, right? And it's like all of a sudden, every woman after that had to pay the price for that one woman, right? And it was just like, I just saw it happen, right? It's like just being at Morehouse, these guys coming in 18 years old, 17, you know, wide eyed, never experienced life. And then they start dating. And then all of a sudden, you know, this girl did this, found a girlfriend over here. And next thing you know, they're just, they're trying to get revenge on the first girl after everybody else. So I've seen that a lot too, doing best when I was younger. And I'm pretty sure women got the same story the other way around because I just was talking to a lot of women in those days. So, but
Yeah,
that's
I
why.
have something to say.
Oh, go ahead, Georgie.
Hey, everybody. So glad to be here. And I was just listening to the conversation. Sorry I was late. I was just leaving church. But it just, man, it sounds like unforgiveness and it sounds like so many things. I have this friend and she helped me through a tough time when I was going through marriage about forgiveness, and she became my forgiveness coach. And then she has this ministry where she wants to help people and minister of reconciliation, and she has this strong desire to kind of help the problem actually that you're talking about. And then I turn around and then I don't know what to do because she wants to teach people how to write memoirs instead of helping people solve this very problem. It's
I
just
know,
so
right?
weird.
She would have millions of clients, wouldn't she? Right?
Yeah, but that's all I was going to say.
That's all you're going to say. I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
Throwing
yeah,
shade, throwing shade.
yeah. So, Dorian, let's get back to Dorian. What's your thoughts on what I was saying, Dorian? What do you see as I'm kind of processing through that with you?
Um, I think a lot of what you said, I agree with. I think that it probably would not happen. But I believe like, believers can, take the right step forward
Hmm.
into influencing that. I do know that there are a lot of women that are saying no to premarital sex now, and not just
Hmm.
Christians. I mean, non-believers are doing the same thing because they're realizing that the other way is not working for them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's why there's also like all these different podcasts that I'm realizing where women are like, I'd rather be single than to be in a relationship. And then men are like, you're gonna be, single for the rest of your life, or you're gonna, die alone with a cat. And women are like, that's fine, you know?
Mhm.
So I do think that I am seeing that shift. I don't I mean I'm not around a lot of men, so I don't know from the men perspective if men are actually practicing, abstinence as well. But I know the women are. Um and so yes, I do agree that, if men were to say they're not gonna have sex prior to marriage, it's going to cause them to be more intentional and more selective on the type of woman they want to marry because again, men are driven by, what they see.
Hmm.
Um, and sex is something that they desire more than, most women. Not to say women don't desire that too, but in general, like men tend to typically desire it way more.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah.
yeah, yeah. So so like the premarital sex will go a long way. Um, I heard an interesting thought. Is that I think I don't know if it came from originally from with a lady or a guy. I heard, I'm in these internet streaks, I'm making videos now, right? And they was making the argument that men actually don't like women. They just like sleeping with them. They don't actually like women, right? Just like them, right? Um, and I thought about that for a second. And before I just dismissed it out of hand, I thought for a second, for a man perspective, if he couldn't have sex with you, he literally would not marry you. Like if sex was not possible, men would not get married, right? That God designed us for that sex drive to be so strong that if marriage was not possible, we would not marry you. If sex not possible, we would not marry you. Now, if we got married and then sex became impossible because of some physical reason, we'll stay committed. But get into a marriage knowing that you could not have sex with that particular person, you would not do that. So which means that that sex drive is so strong that you may not have developed the ability to kind of process through some of the emotional parts of being connected in companionship with a woman, right? Just because you know, cause like if because you're really so focused on that physical attraction and drive that was provided, right? Um, and so it's and what I found is that as much as women do love sex too, so I'm not saying they don't, but women could go a year or two probably without sex and still feel like the marriage is doing good, right? For some ladies, right? But a man can't go more than a month or two prior to saying this is terrible, right? Or a few weeks, right? And so I think there's a truth to the fact that there's such a powerful attraction that men has towards women that we may not have fully developed an ability to actually like them beyond sex, right? So that's a thought I'm processing, thinking through, because like growing up as a boy, we don't really there's no conversation around about what women are really like other than they're attractive to us, right? There's no other thoughts around that. And being when I was 18, 19, 20, the only criteria we had to date a woman was how they looked. That was it. That was it. There was no other. There was no other anything, right? So my wife was the first woman I dated that I decided to date her beyond a physical appearance, right? So I had saw some characteristics in her that I actually liked and that I wanted in my life, and she was attractive too, which was good. That had to be there. But at that point in my life, I knew I was making a marriage decision, so she had to look more than cute at that point, right? I need to have seen some things and known some things, and since I had spent about a few years just knowing her in the role of a children's minister and seeing her heart and just being a good, good leader in children's ministry, handling pressure, like that kind of raised her stakes in my eyes, even before God was like, she's the one type of thing. So, but yeah, but it's a lot here to unpack between men and women. Go ahead, Stephanie.
My question then would be, then as a son who looks at his mother and the relationship between a mother and a father, how much does that impact a son?
It's in terms of seeing how the father and the mother engage.
Yes, like
Yeah,
nothing comes in that says, "Wow, a woman is more than sex."
yeah. Moms are different. Boys don't see moms in terms of sex, obviously. So they're probably the most unique. Well, moms and sisters, of course. But I wonder if most kids don't really see their parents engage in marriage. As a child, I just saw my parents take care of us. I saw my parents get us back and forth to school. I didn't really see my parents interact with each other that much. Right. So we don't, I don't know if we have enough example time of just watching your parents engage with each other. Right. Watching your parents hold hands, kiss each other, talk to each other. You probably don't see that stuff. So you may not see the arguments, but you only see the good stuff either. So you just got the basics of, okay, my dad goes out to work. My mom goes out to work too. We got babysitters. My grandma's picked me up from school, but there's no relationship things I'm viewing other than you just supposed to stay together for the rest of your life. Right.
Or we're just taking care of you.
You're just taking care of me.
I feel like a lot of times kids only see their parents as not even human.
Yeah.
They just see you as like an object of, whatever their needs are.
Resource.
A resource. Yeah.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
ATM machine.
Yeah, like all of that. Like, I think my adult children are having a hard time like seeing me as a human,
Yeah.
has desires and all of that. Because even now, like if I talk to them, my adult kids, about something of, I mean, I'm abstinent, but like if it's something like maybe I even may have said something about like where they were conceived, because I actually remember when they were like, oh, we don't want to talk about that.
Yep.
They don't want to see their parents, but it's like, girl, boy, I'm a person, right? I have some of the same desires, but that's not what I want to say. But in terms of like, just like men think, I think men and women are just so different. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I'm getting a lot of work done at my house, and there was this couple that came over, their service providers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the guy asked me a question, and I answered him, and he didn't know what the heck I said, but the woman knew exactly what I said. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh, here is a real life example of men being from Mars and women from Venus or whatever. Like he
Yeah.
literally didn't know what I meant, didn't know and she knew exactly, and she had to translate it for him. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about men and women. Like, we don't like men, we don't like y'all either. Okay.
Because yeah, 'cause I
Just
wonder
like
if we if
y'all
we,
don't like us, we don't like you because you're so different.
it's
And you're
difference. Yeah.
so, and you know what? It takes work to get along with y'all. It takes work to make a decision. It takes work to get things done. And a lot of people just don't want to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And
And,
so when you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
now, and I was gonna say, and that's why without the sex, men would just not even try.
Right.
So
And
like,
that's why
yeah.
you have these older men, for I'm a woman of a certain age. You have these older men, right? Because God designed our bodies, men and women, to be at the same pace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same pace of y'all losing y'all hair, we losing our hair. We, you know what I mean? Just like our
Mm-hmm.
nails getting weak, just like y'all, whatever y'all
Yeah.
got going, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now, because of medical science, you have these men that can get the little blue pills now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now they have the stability, they have the all the things, and so they can attract the younger woman, because they can, because of medical science, they
Mm-hmm.
can now still stay a little bit compatible with the younger woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a friend of mine who is a successful older man. He's been married for like 36 years. Is one of my classmates. And he said, I said, well, what's up? Like, tell me what's going on. Like, don't you have a man you could introduce me to? And this is what he said. He said that a lot of older men don't want to do the work
Mm-hmm.
that's required to be
Yeah.
with a woman of his equal,
Yeah.
right? Because these younger women, you can throw things at them that's not going to be impressive to a older woman, because we
Mm-hmm.
see you how you are. So,
Yeah.
um, there's
I told my wife, I said, if I was in a situation where we were not together, I would not get remarried
so
at
you would
all.
stay abstinent for the rest of your
Yeah,
life.
I would say that's the rest of my life. I
Oh,
would not get remarried.
oh
I would
my
I would I would
gosh,
desire companionship, but I wouldn't want to go through marriage again.
that's terrible.
So I
That's
Why
said,
you
honest.
say that? No, why you say that? Like, I need
well,
to
no,
know.
because that's my honest thing. Like I don't want to do this again,
And
right?
I'm
So like,
telling you, a
yeah.
lot of older men, that's exactly where they are. And you
Hmm.
have women that don't care about honoring God. They don't care
Hmm.
about being abstinent. So they have the women that will you know, that will provide that. I mean, I truly met a man that I believe that I could, be compatible with. But what I said to him in the first date, I'm not going to be your 60-year-old girlfriend.
Hmm.
And I never heard from him again
Hmm. Yeah. And
because
see,
he
this is the
knew.
thing with men. If they haven't matured so spiritually, they'll still try to play the game, right? Knowing they don't want a full commitment versus just being honest and just being like the Apostle Paul, like, it's better to be single. Like he was telling widowers, like it's better not to get remarried. Just be single. You have an easier life, right? But the younger widows, he said, well, you probably should get married if you're younger. But the older widows, like, so so at 52 years old next month, I don't think I would get remarried again. It wouldn't mean I wouldn't desire companionship. I wouldn't desire companionship, but I would not get
What would you
remarried.
do with that? What would you do with the desire to companionship? You just
I was poured into building stuff, creativity.
yeah. And you know what? That I get that. And I was reading in my journal, like the loneliness went away, like when I made that short film, it went
Mm-hmm.
away and stuff like that. But it came back.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
came back when that was over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not single, so I wouldn't know what that may feel like. But just from this side of being married, with a desire for I want this to work and not do anything else, it's just like I couldn't imagine the restart.
Yeah,
Right, just a restart.
it's real.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I feel like killing my former husband. I want to kill him sometimes, like for real.
Miss Moss said her husband said the same thing. You want to share some insight on that, Miss Moss, Mrs. Moss, or how do you pronounce it? Lena. So, let's get Ark in here. Ark, go ahead.
Hi guys, sorry I joined really late, but I see it's very super cool discussion.
We can change the subject. Remember, it's open forum.
No,
We
no,
talk
no.
about
I
whatever you
don't
guys
want to
talk
change
about.
it. I wanna contribute.
You want to contribute?
Yeah. So first of all, I really understand what Pastor is saying in terms of. I also was thinking sometimes, like if for some reason God would pick my wife earlier than me, and I still stick around on this planet. First and foremost, I would see it's hard to get married again because I see my life so connected to this person, this wife already. So it's hard to imagine you switch to somebody else, because one thing is like when you divorced and you want to kill your wife. Another thing, like when you lost your wife, you still love her. But the other aspect is also, I really agree that it's hard to imagine that so much work needs to be done again, and you never know what kind of person is gonna be, and if she is willing to do this work as well. And also having in mind what already been said, that I understand that maybe it will be easier to find somebody younger and skip a lot of work, but then eventually they become not younger and they become smarter, and then you end up doing this work anyway later, which may be even worse. So ideally, I would say I stick with the pastor's plan. Like, let's say if by chance we became not married after being married, then maybe not like Paul suggested, or who suggested, probably Paul, not really searching for this so hard, like maybe like we been taught in the DTS school, which is the mission I was in, YWAM Youth of Mission. Very good thing, like you give up the right. When you give up the right, doesn't mean that you say, no, I never do it, but you kind of give up the right to do it and then just leave it to God. And who knows, maybe even like when like Amos and I, we say it like this today, but maybe if by chance this bad thing happens to us, maybe then some years later, God will bring that person and maybe we will change our mind. But logically and just naturally, we think that it's really hard and impossible. So for everyone, I can give only one advice, that as much as you relax more about that and trust it to God, and not saying completely 100% no, but also not just going crazy about that, maybe I think it could be always the best way to go. And coming back to the childhood, I also agree. We were all only thinking, I was only thinking about how girls look like, and actually, with my wife, that also was like that, like Pastor said, it was the first girl I stopped thinking this way. And if I would still think this way, I would probably still be not married until today.
Yeah. Because the problem with the picking a girl based on, we use the word girl because we're going back 30 years ago when we were younger, based on looks, at some points, the attitude of her overrides the looks, right? And you don't actually like her anymore. You like the looks, but at some point the looks fade away, right? And that's where the problem comes in when you just literally just picking on looks, right? And we're talking to guys here, ladies, y'all probably know this, but guys, you're listening. If you're just picking based on looks, that is not a move at
Like
all.
my friend said, just look for the internal beauty first,
Yeah.
because the outside beauty will fade away anyway.
Yeah.
But
And
internal
it
is
might
more,
fade away
more
in 2 months, right?
Yeah. You will see it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
There needs to be a balance between that, because someone can have a really great personality and great qualities, but if you can't look at them, I mean, it really, you know, it really defeats the purpose of, you trying to be with that person. So I just think there needs to be a balance between physical attractiveness and inner beauty as well.
Yeah, exactly. We don't say that it's like only look for their character or inside beauty, but when I was too focused on their outside perfection and I was still searching for the perfect looking girl, it would never end this. But when my friend suggested me, like, look at the internal ones and don't pick those small things you don't like, then all of a sudden I looked all the good parts inside and outside, and then I would say, yeah, otherwise I would not marry my wife, but it doesn't mean that I don't like her. Actually, I like how she looks today, 25, 27 years later, even more than when we met. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead, Antoinette. You want to jump in this conversation, change the subject?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I wanted to contribute to this subject because my dad passed away when I was 7, and my mom was a widow at 25, very young. She had 4 kids. She said she would never remarry. She mourned my dad for like 10 years because in our culture, you wear black, but she wore her own for an extended period of time. They had to beg her to take it off. Up to this day, she tried to remarry, but in our culture, there's polygamy, so she remarried as a second wife. Then she changed her mind and she got out of the marriage when she gave her life to Christ. And now she says she's married to Christ. So we've tried to convince her at every level to marry. I took her to the doctor's office, and this nurse practitioner took like an hour. You're beautiful. You can remarry. I was like, please help her. She needs to marry a rich man so we can just have a rich dad. And, and we've tried, and she's like, nope, she has no interest. And my mom will always say my dad was the best man that she ever married. All these men that are coming up today, she has no clue who trained them. She'll look at my husband, she'll look at my sister's husband. She's like, your dad will never do this. Your dad will leave the accounts for me to manage. Your dad trusted me. Up to this day, she's 62, from 25 to 60. My mom still talk about my dad like it was yesterday. I don't know if they make those kind of men, but just like Pastor Amos, you were saying, I don't know. For her, it's like she doesn't think that she'll meet a man that was like my dad. And so there's no point trying. Now, for me, young as I am and being married for 16, going on 17 years, I don't want to work this hard. I think I suffered. I don't think, that's why when I see people go out on divorce, I'm like, man, like to go start with another man and have to work this hard again. Like all men look like they came from the same mother. They have the same brain, like from us, like, like Stephanie was saying, like they think so differently from women. And after already dealing with all the things I already dealt with, I'm like, you know what? I already know your weak points. I already know everything. I'm sticking. I'm dying here. Nothing is going to take me away. You care, you're stubborn. I don't care, because it doesn't mean I'm going to meet another man who is not going to be stubborn. And so there's no desire. Even when the marriage is stale and we got to find a way to, because you get into those periods and then you got to rejuvenate again. The divorce does not occur in my mind. It's just like, okay, fine. I got to find my girlfriends and we go out on a trip, leave him alone. So he's going to miss me. And then when I come back, he's going to make a trip for us to, so I don't desire divorce, because I just think, how do you start over? So when men say it's hard to deal with him, for me as a woman, it was hard. It was hard to break in. It was hard. The prayers I had to make to break the strongholds of anger and all these things and get him where he is. I am not ready to do that same thing for another man. So let God just keep us all alive and let's just die together too. Like, there's no way. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's why God designed marriage to be one time, a once in a lifetime thing, right? You're supposed to do it when you're young. You're supposed to stick with it. That's kind of the goal, right?
Amen to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we're definitely saying those who are divorced want to get remarried. It's possible, and we'll let Anna and Verna jump in because they're living proof of the second marriage is 10,000 times better than the first. Go ahead, Anna and Verna.
Second time is better than the first time, but this is my one, and this is my last marriage. There will be no more marriages. I'm right there with you, Pastor Amos. If the Lord takes loves before me, that's it for me. I'll be married to our Heavenly Father. That's it. Nope, no more marriage. It has nothing to do with our marriage. It's just that it's not a desire of mine to be married to somebody else. So that one and only, I'll be a widow. And then what Antoinette was saying, my great grandmother, she lived to be 100. My great grandfather died at a very young age. He was 47 too. And so my grandmother lived 50 some years without a husband. They had 10 children, 5 girls, 5 boys, my grandmother being the oldest. And my great grandmother was like, nope, no more men. So she never remarried. She never dated. It was just her and her children and grandchildren and great grandchildren and great grandchildren.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Taisha got a good question to comment. I'm just seeing it here. She said, "Would you mind sharing what aspects of marriage make you say you wouldn't choose not to do it again?" I think for me, it's the aspect of having to learn a new personality, and having to make compromise decisions because marriage is such a it's a compromise, right? It's like I can't just do what I want to do. I got to take into account another person's feelings, and she got to take into account of my feelings, and that back and forth is really a difficult one, especially for me. I'm more of a solo decision making person. I like to just move fast by myself. Um, so to actually have to connect with another person, and I was always terrible in groups, right? Even going to college. Um, so because I love my wife and I want her to be happy and I want us to be together, I make an effort for us to do things together, right? And I still fall short of that, right? Um, so for me, it's just like I wouldn't want to go to the hassle of having trying to do that all over again, right? It's be like, you know what? I'm single. I'm just going to just live my life, make decisions. Because so in Corinthians, God says the man who's single can spend his whole time following God. The man who's married has to divide his attention between his wife and God, right? So as a married man, and it also says for a married woman too, you're constantly living in a divided state between God is saying this, my wife need this, and the two may not coexist, right? April may want one thing, God may want another thing, and God's telling me I got to do both things, right? So I have to make God and her happy, and they may not come together, right? So that there's this delicate balancing act that you got to do in marriage that takes energy and time, and that's why Jesus said everybody's not mature enough to live a married life. It requires grace and skill to actually do that correctly, and most people do it terribly. Most people just do it terribly. That's why a lot of marriages are terrible because it's hard to balance that your own desires, your spouse's desires, working together, merging things together, and it takes energy, right? It takes a balance, right? And anything that takes balance takes energy, right? So it's just I just know the work of marriage, and I'm honored to do it with my wife, but I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. So that's how I think about it, Taisha. Does that make sense what I'm saying, Taisha?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. So Hey guys, we're at 10 o'clock, so usually we'll wrap up now. But since we spent so much time talking about marriage, if anybody want to talk a little bit more, change the subject, we'll take a few minutes. We can just uh uh Tori got us started, right? She got us going down going down this train. Which is good to have these open, honest conversations, though. I think it's good to have these conversations.
Well, I think what it's doing is kind of solidifying like the conversation that we had earlier.
Yeah,
I need to go ahead and do that documentary film for real.
yeah,
And the way that you put it was like if you were gonna have 1 year to live, what would you do? So yeah, it's a lot. It's really so my first thing because the first short documentary film that I did was dealing with is there a gender war? And it was
hmm
interesting. I had two single people, two couples, and one therapist. The
hmm
two single people said yes, there's a gender war. The two happily married couples said no. So it depends on who you are that answers that question. So from that, I have to determine like what is the question that I'm going to examine.
yeah, yeah. I think that gender war, if I it's an old war, right? Because like even when I go back in time to I was in college, the way we looked at women were like they were objects to conquer. Like it was almost like there wasn't people. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like the way other men trained us. When I say other men, other teenage boys, right? Who were just sophomores, juniors in college, right? Is this
And older
concept
man, pastor.
and older men too. Okay. I just I had more younger men talking in my life. Cause like you gotta imagine, I'm 17 years old going to college, very inexperienced with women, you know, not because I had the strong moral position. I just didn't have the opportunity to just go crazy like other kids, right? And so the first day on campus at Morehouse College, the first thing they teach me from not the school but the men around me was that you got to have a pen. And he said if you don't have a pen, like something you write with, right? And
Oh,
said if you don't have a pen, how you gonna get a phone number, right? That was the first lesson, right? And the lesson was, as a Morehouse man, you got to be constantly getting information from women. It's almost like you create a list of options, right? And what you're doing with this list of options, you're constantly collecting them too. Like everywhere you go, you're collecting a list of women to call and talk to. And so most Morehouse men have like 10 to 15 different women on a list that they're calling back and forth, engaging with. And it's almost like it's a game, not a relationship, right? So that's how you start off
wow.
your life, right?
That's crazy. Like that is truly not the experience of women. I don't know. I mean, I went to a HBCU, but it was in Arkansas. So I don't know. Do you think it's because of Morehouse and it's an all male school? Or is that the culture of men or young men? I have to bring my daughter in here who is on a campus of another.
She's in an age group for that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is
I think that's the
because
culture.
at her school at Alabama A&M, they literally have almost 50-50. I think it's like, and I sent this, I was like, girl, like, you literally need to identify your man while you on campus. Because right now, like at Alabama A&M, there's like, it's not 50-50, but it's like 48% 52. Like it's very equal in terms of men and women. Now, being in Atlanta is probably different.
Yeah, it was like 12 to 1 almost. One guy for 12 women almost
Yeah,
in our culture.
it's
Yeah.
not like that. So, do you think that's the culture of Morehouse because it's an all male school? And
Well, like I only have my one data point of me and my friends.
yeah,
And so in that one data point is it really was
wow.
like they were something to conquer. They were cute, they were cuddly, there was something to conquer. And then it wasn't until I got into church that that mindset was changed, right? Um, and so without church, I don't know how I would have turned out. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because like that's what you're trained in. Right.
Wow. That's pretty sad.
It's also good training to be a salesperson, of course.
Of course, right, right.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
understand it's all the game, more like we were kids. It's more like a game, but
Mhm.
also fun. But yeah, but then you also get on the salesperson skills. Like it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not really fun. I think when I was younger and I realized the limitations of this is that I called the wrong girl with the wrong number one time. And I was like, I can't even mentally keep up. You know, like I don't know how these
Yeah,
guys are
that's
doing
not
this.
fun.
Yeah, I don't know how these guys are doing this. It's like it just takes too much work now, right? Tori said it just takes too much time, right? It just takes too much work
You
now.
got blocked, didn't you, Pastor
Yeah, it's like,
Amos?
you got this list of numbers. You got, like, who's this person again? It's like, you know what? This is
They
just too
didn't
much.
have
This is
block
too
back
much.
then, Toya,
Yeah,
honey.
they have block
Oh
back
no,
then.
there was no
Yeah.
blocking him.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
okay.
ma'am.
You
That's
probably
a
have to
new
keep
thing.
calling, right? Yeah, I think I just blocked myself. You say, you know what? I'm starting. I'm just throwing this way. I can't. I can't keep doing this. So, it's. But think about that mindset though. To think about that's so young, right? This is the mindset you're growing up with, right? And then that has to change, right? Then you see Christ, and that's why that pastor said, Amos, you need to be single for until you finish graduate school, and that's like took 2 years. And I was single for the first time in my life since 19 at, I don't know what, 26 for the first time, single for real, single. Like nobody calling nobody, nobody's calling me. I'm not connected. I'm not looking for nobody. That 2 years of my life being fully disconnected was the best reset ever I ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Was the best reset ever. Go ahead, Antoinette. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I had a different perspective, but just to add to that, as a girl growing up, I remember that guys would do competition, they would talk with their friends like who is going to date me. And I mean, they had all kinds of stunts. They would cry, they would beg, they would go on their knees. But I had I had two protective factors. My mom will kill you and it will kill me because she was a mother and a father.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she always told us, if you date a man, you will get pregnant. If you look at him, you'll get pregnant. I was like, and if you, the way she handled it, there was no way in the world I was going to even give a chance to anyone. So I said, I would never date anybody in my school, in my town. That was already a protective factor right there. So when the guys are doing all these stunts to get a girl so they can tell their friends that girl that is hard to get, I finally got her. They didn't. When we grew up, then I heard all this later, like, oh, wow. So he was not real. He was really trying to win the game. So yeah, when you say that, I recall. But my perspective that I wanted to bring that was different is since I'm doing my prayer group with the women, the wives praying for their husbands, I get to learn a lot and get to encourage. But something that came to mind is I think it would be beneficial, just like, was it in, I forgot which book in the Bible it said that the older women should teach the younger women.
Yeah.
It's so important because so many young women are suffering in marriage because of perspective. But when we come together and we read The Power of a Praying Wife and Stormy, it just brings light to situations that looked so gigantic. It just melts, when we talk about it, and we talk about it and laugh about it.
Yeah.
So it's, and I feel like it's the same way for men, because when you're isolated, the man thinks a woman is a witch, she's bad, she's horrible. But then when he talks with his male friends and they're like, oh yeah, my wife is difficult too, and this, and then he looks at it like, whoa, I thought mine was worse, yours is, like having those support groups, I think would have helped preserve marriage, and this high percentage of divorce would not have happened if we were just honest, and the bad advice they would give is just keep it in your house. I think as Christians, we were supposed to be a little bit open, not discuss too much, like not be too open, but discuss general things that we all face so that we can all know that these are general struggles, and not always look at people who hold hands and walk out there thinking they're a perfect couple. They never argue. They just never have a problem, never have a disagreement. Look, they wear the same shirt, the same clothes. Nah, so, and that's the thing. That's what's going on. Thank you.
That's a good point. I think having other people in your life that can tell you, we've been through this before, here's how you get out of it, is critical, right? Yeah, it's critical. I mean, so it's good to have, that's why we had these open conversations, right? So people can hear. And I see in the chat, Stephanie, a couple of people are agreeing with my life experience. So that just maybe I'm not an anomaly. So and first of all, I wasn't like, I don't want people to think that I was not like, people say they were him or her like that thing. That was not me. I'm still like awkward. I'm still trying to, I'm still, my career and my grades were more important than those relationships though. Right. I'm still trying to get an A in my class. Right. So I'm not going too far out there. Right. That's why they were trying to teach me what to do. So keep that in mind. So I don't want people to hear I'm trying to brag about, no, that was not me. That was not me. I was not the guy on campus at all. So, but this is what this is kind of what the guys around me did, right? And this is what the counselor that he did, right? And fortunately, I had enough parents in me that I couldn't go too far, right? And so I had enough kind of like support system that it's like, okay, this may be a little too far, and that helps kind of pull it back, though, right? And the biggest thing that helped me in my Christian walk was having other guys who are my exact same age trying to walk celibate. Right. So you imagine this, you're 26 years old. There's other 25, 27s, some 30-year-old guys, some 35-year-old guys. And all of us are trying to not have sex. Right. All of us are trying to live holy. Right. We're all hearing the same messages. Right. We all calling each other out. Like, hey, I heard you saw you at that girl's house one night. Like, how long was that? Like calling you out. Like, hey, what's going on? Right. I told Dawn the story the other day about me and my roommate. Like he was dating this girl and went out to the movies and she had this real revealing dress. So I took off my jacket and I wrapped it around her shoulders. And my friend came to me and said, hey man, thanks for doing that when I was struggling. Right. So it's like we were watching out for each other. Right. And so men need other men who walking on that same journey to kind of really turn the tide. So yeah. And fortunately we had that. And pretty much I think every one of the guys I was with, except for one guy, we all got married. We all still married from that time frame. And even the ladies that were in our group, they all got married too in that time frame, right? Because we all was like walking in that same kind of walk, right? So, all right, guys. Any final thoughts? I know we just hanging out here. All right, I think we're good here, guys. We solved the men and women issue. Oh, go ahead,
No,
Stephanie.
you haven't. We
We
just
haven't solved.
we're just gonna just wave a red. We gonna wave a white.
White flag.
Georgie just texted me because she's married. And she says this like for the third time. But she said, and I'm sure she wouldn't. She doesn't mind me say anything because she's so open. But she says the men are candidly saying that they look at the outside, and she says she's holding her stance to focus on the inside. And she's saying now she sort of wonders if that is why she has had success with love again, because she has like a wonderful husband that adores her and, all of that stuff. And it's just like, but she looked at like the heart of who he was. And,
Yeah.
He came to her one way and she was like, no, you
Yeah.
raggedy,
Yeah.
come back. And he
Mhm.
literally did the work. He did all the things that was needed.
Yeah.
Moved to another city to be by her.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so I mean it can be done, but woo, there's a lot.
There's a lot. It can't be done.
Right. And I don't even want to coach a guy, if he don't even know what to do, like going out to stuff. So
I think more people have the option that it can be done too than not. Because I think we're looking at the extreme examples of some people. Like there's some men that I would tell my daughter never to date. Just some men, like zero athletes, don't date any athlete, right? At all.
Agreed.
At all, right? And here's why. Not because of athletics. It's because all their life they've been adored. Their entire life. They don't know what it's like to actually give. Everybody's been giving to them. Everybody's been shifting their life around them since they were like kids,
Worshiping them.
worshiping them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
so that type of person doesn't know how to give, they just know how to take. Not saying athletes are bad, it's just that environment.
Not saying that
No.
all of them are like that.
Yeah, it's just that it
There
doesn't
are
breed.
those rare ones there,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
agree with you
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah. So
Hey,
just go ahead, Dwayne.
what about women athletes?
Women athletes, I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I haven't seen it. I don't have a frame of reference for that. So
That
um
women are not adored in athletics the same way that men are.
yeah. No, I mean, see, for guys, women are cute regardless of what they do, right? So for men, you could be a millionaire, a billionaire, or waitress. If you're cute, right? There's no kind of what you do outside of being cute is not like, and that's which is the problem we're talking about, right? It doesn't register, right? Cute is cute, right? So so they may not be adorned as much, potentially. I don't know, but like I said, I haven't studied. I just know it from the male side of what it looks like.
Would
Um,
that
Go ahead, Dylan.
would that be equivalent to men saying that dating a woman that is independent or that is self-made, like it's kind of hard to date women that are, independent and self-made because technically they don't really need quote unquote a man's money to sustain themselves. Like would that be equivalent to that comment you made? I'm just curious.
For yeah. So if I had a son, I would probably tell him any lady that wants to be the boss lady, don't date them. I'll probably give him that advice. And the reason I probably give him that advice, no, because men need to feel needed. And if he doesn't feel needed, he's not going to be. He's going to. He's
Come
just
on,
not.
help us out. Come on,
He's not going to
Pastor
be there,
Amos,
right?
help us out. Because let me tell you, remember the guy that you connected me with?
Hmm.
That was the first time that I realized that I like being in charge.
Yeah, I
Like
tried to play matchmaker. It did not work out.
when
So
he
so
finally calmed down, like he was tired or whatever, and I was like, and he like stopped acting like he was on one. I really liked like being in charge,
hmm. Yeah.
and I that was my first time actually noticing it.
Hmm.
And it was
Yeah.
like, ooh, what do I do
Yeah.
with that? So maybe women need, or women that are ambitious and whatever need a little bit more training because my mother was like that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so I didn't know any other kind of way to be. And maybe
Yeah.
I've always been that way. And like you say, marriage is dangerous for women.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
It's
It's dangerous.
dangerous.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a way that I try to keep myself safe.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Right. So it's not necessarily about being a woman being successful. It's like how do you carry that success? Right. That might be the question. Like how do you carry it? Do you carry it as a trophy or do you carry it loosely? Because, like, from a scriptural standpoint, God sees money as nothing. He doesn't even care about how much money people make, right? You're like, what? You make it, so what? Most successful, not most, a lot of successful women, especially as they present themselves with this power dynamic that I'm on top of everything and I'm self sufficient. And that just repels men from dating them, right? Now, I will say, men like to be connected to powerful women because men like powerful stuff, but they
Say
may
that
not want to
again.
date you. Men like to be connected to powerful women, but may not want to date a powerful woman, right? We admire power, right? So like just as much I admire what Mark Zuckerberg did to build Facebook, I admire what Oprah did to build Oprah Winfrey Company. I don't want to date her, but I admire how she built it. Right. I can learn from her, but I don't want to date her though. Right. You see the difference? So like we admire
Yeah.
power, success, but we don't want to date that though.
So that explains why my DMs are empty. Empty.
So I have a thought to that because I think that there are women that are ambitious and go-getters and they can, self-sustain and they're not flaunting it. However, there are men who they cannot carry a woman like that. And because they cannot carry a woman like that, they try to humble women like that. And it's difficult in the dating, scene, because a woman who is self-sustained, she is not going to naturally submit to a man that cannot lead her. And
she shouldn't.
And it takes a certain type of man that has leadership qualities to lead a woman like that. And I'm not saying that this man has to be tough or like because there's leadership in humility. There's leadership in different types of ways, and it's how you carry yourself and present yourself. But I think that a lot of men, like you said, they gravitate towards women that are successful, and maybe for bragging rights, like, I was able to date her. However, when they're in that relationship, they don't know how to carry it through. They don't know how to protect. They don't know how to cover. They don't know how to love that woman, because again, she's self-sufficient. And I'm saying this from experience, and not because I wasn't quote unquote humble. I don't think that wasn't my issue, because I never really flaunt anything. However, the men that I did date could not carry me and everything that came with me.
Yeah. And so men needs to feel needed, right? So, and remember, success is relative, right? So, a woman making $200,000 a year, a man making $1 million a year, he'll feel needed, right? A man making $30,000 a year with a woman making $200,000 a year is not going to feel needed. And usually where it shows up is that the woman, if she starts to say comments like, well, I'm paying all the bills here, or I doing this, that's what happens, right? I just listened to a talk show the other day with a lady. She makes $180,000. Her husband makes $30,000, and they start the relationship off like that. And what she's been trying to do with her husband, she kept saying, well, he's not ambitious enough. I'm trying to find him jobs. He can make more money. And so she thought she could handle it. But in reality, once she got into it, she wanted her husband to make more money than she did. Right. And so sometimes I say what is, what not should be. So what should be is that money should not matter at all. Right. People should mature to the point where they should understand that money is useless. Right. We need it here on earth, but it has no eternal value. Right. So your value as a person is not based on how much money you make. Right. Your role as a husband is not based on how much money you can bring into the house. Right. But unfortunately, we've allowed the money thing to kind of become like a value system. And because it's such a powerful value system, I really don't advise people to be lopsided where the wife is making significantly more money than her husband, because even though she says she can handle it, he's saying he can handle it. It shows mostly they can't handle it, right? It's just such a big imbalance, right? That it's just tough, right? She said that's so countercultural in America. I guess he was Stephanie about that. Antoinette, you want to share any thoughts on this? I see your hand up. And so for those of y'all, I'm going to keep recording this. Seems like this might be good to keep this on recording and post this. So we'll just keep talking till we're done talking, and then we'll.
Antoine is has.
Oh, it's Antonio. Sorry,
Antonio.
Antonio, my bad.
It's all right. Hey, how you doing? Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hey, sorry I came in a little bit late today. Celebrate my wife's birthday. I have a couple of thoughts. One, I just want to say a lot, but make it very short at the same time. So, I've been married for 14 years, and what I found is much like Pastor Amos, I went through a period of where I just wasn't really talking to anybody, to be honest with you. I was focusing on ministry, myself, and really just working on um, stuff with ministry and also my career. That was my and physical fitness at that particular time. Um, there's a story in the Bible, and it talks about Jacob, and it talks about how he led the sheep from behind. And I guess what I was getting at with what I was saying in the beginning was that there's a certain level of men being prepared for who they're going to marry. And a lot of times there's a focus on the women being prepared for their husband, like the Esther and, all of that good, stuff. But I also do think too that there is a preparation process that a man should go through before he gets married, which in returns helps him be the best spouse that he can be for who he marries. Um, so in the Bible, it talks about how Jacob led the sheep from behind. And I always question that model of leadership because that's just how I think. It's easier to lead from behind because you can see sometimes when somebody's going astray or when they're step off or where there's danger. Like if you're leading from the front, your back is towards them and you can't really see what the dangers are or who's astray until, maybe they're, quite a ways off. You know what I mean? If you're not constantly looking back. And then a lot of times for leaders don't like to look back. They want to focus on being forward. And so I think one of the issues becomes, I don't want to say more of a dominant woman, but let's just say more of an independent. I think that women can still be led that are like that, but I think that you can still stand behind them and you can still lead. You can still be a support and still lead at the same time without a person's masculinity being questioned. But I just think that a lot of times men or people in general have to get out of the mindset of I, I would guess maybe just say maybe a little worldly or carnal thinking. Like, how do people really define what a man is? And most men are usually defined by what they do or what they can provide
Yeah.
rather than who they are. You
Yeah.
see what I mean?
hmm
Like I had a conversation with one of my sisters-in-law and we was talking about nature, you know what I mean? And how like the rooster um doesn't eat with the family or before the family. He eats after the family because he realizes that when they're eating, their butts are up. You know what I mean? And that's
hmm
when they're the most vulnerable to prey because they're not focusing on protecting themselves or the hen or, whatever. They're focused on eating, and that's when they're vulnerable. So, what the male will do is while they're eating, he will watch to make sure that they're okay. And then
Yeah.
once they finish eating, then the rooster will eat. You know what I mean? And I actually model that in my house. A lot of times they don't know what I'm doing, but they just like, why are you not eating? I say, y'all just go ahead and eat and enjoy, because I like to
hmm
see them eat and enjoy anyway. But I think I think what happens is that a lot of times people are coming across people that really just are not being prepared for marriage. They're
hmm
not necessarily taking the time out and it may seem like hope is lost, so I can't find a man or whatever the case may be. And I don't want to go against anybody's convictions or anything. That's your thing. You know what I mean? I'm not here for that, but I just kind of wanted to say that, you know, that if a person is willing to be prepared by the Lord at whatever age and particular point in life that they're in, they can be a good spouse and they could be a good spouse to anybody as long as they're willing to go through the process. The
Yeah.
problem that I find is that a lot of people don't want to go through process. They want overnight wonders. Um, I just say this real quick now, try and stop. I feel like I'm being long, but I'm trying to go through it quick. Like I'm a builder, you know what I mean? At least I consider myself the builder. I love to build things, you know what I mean? I work on cars. I'm on vacation here, and I pulled my car in and started doing shocks and everything. They're like, what are you doing? And like, I'm working on my skill, but as a builder, you know, I've learned to enjoy process, and I've learned to enjoy the different steps in the journey and what it takes. And I think that what happens a lot of times is people become resentment in the journey because they have to develop patience, they have to develop character, and they don't really want the development part. They just
Yeah.
want something that's done already. You know what I mean? But when you get something that's done already, you don't get the benefits of going through the process and the journey of seeing how something became instead of
Yeah.
just instead of it
Yeah.
just being there. You know what I mean? And that's all I've got to say. Good night,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks, Antonio. It's cool. We got a lot of male voices jumping in, huh, to the conversation. So thanks, Antonio.
Speaking of the independence, let me just jump in there for the independent woman. I feel like I was that woman. I was so independent. I mean, I was that independent woman that I didn't need a man to take me out on a date. I took myself to the movies. I took myself to the restaurant. Like girls my age would be like, "Oh, why would you on Valentine's Day?" I took myself out. Like on that day, they would ditch them because probably the guys were dating like 3 girls and they didn't take them. And I'll be like, "Where's the boyfriend you've been dating all this while? He's not taking you out." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take you out." I was that independent. I took care of my things. I didn't wait for a man to do anything. But I think that the Lord humbled me by giving me a very stubborn man. And a lot of my friends like, "Antoinette, I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe." I'm like, "I can't even believe I am doing this. I'm accepting this man to treat me like this." Like that was how I was. And the Lord was like, "Yep, you thought you were all like holy, righteous," because I was all about God. I was a Jesus girl with too much independence. And so I humbled myself and I knew that my husband is the head of the household. And so I would literally like, "You're the head of the household. If you make a mistake, we're all going down." And I think the Lord, because early in our marriage, I would have walked out. Like, again, my mother had to call me one day when I was like, "Okay, I don't think this is going to work. And I'm just too stressed to stay in this thing." And she was like, she goes to a prophetic church. Like, "My prophet told me to tell you to let your husband lead the home." That day was the day, because the Lord has spoken to me in many ways. That day was the day I put my hands down. I'm like, "You know what, Lord?
Yeah.
I'm going to my closet and I'm praying about this. I'm no longer addressing this. Whatever it does, that's fine." And I started praying until the Throne Room movie came out. And I'm like, "Oh, that was was it the Throne Room with Priscilla Shara?" That was when I said, "Oh, that's what I've been doing in my marriage. That's what worked." I just started praying. And even when I had my doctorate, my husband's friends were asking him, "Wow, you're so brave. How would you let your wife, how do you feel your wife is a doctor?" And, and da 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 da, and he was happy. He was so happy. He was so happy for me more than I was happy for myself. He was just, "Oh my God, my wife is a doctor." And he was, so he's very confident. He has changed a lot. He's not the man that he was before. I thank God that I didn't leave early. And I think that's what happens. People leave early in that period where God is working on both of us. People leave, they divorce so early. But I usually tell people, just wait. If you wait, you will see the other side and you would wish you stayed, because I am a living proof of a marriage that started rough. I mean, we argued over nothing ever was a conversation. It was argument. And I was just like, "Okay, shut up and pray. Let him lead." To the point where if he had to buy a house, I would just pray. I said, "Lord, I don't want to fight about this." I say, "Go ahead of me, shut that deal." And that was how it happened, until when it was time when I said, "Lord, I like this. Let it work." And it worked. Like I went to the control room and I prayed against for things. And I would just come to him. I'm like, "Okay, what do you think?" "Okay," just submissive. But my husband's the Lord has changed his heart, the anger, worked on it. So just again, living proof to say prayer works. And even if you are an independent woman, you will have to be patient, because that alone is something that helped you survive, but God is going to work on it. And my husband was a nerd. He never really needed a woman. He was focused on his school and everything. And so he too survived that way to keep himself pure. So when I came into his life, I was just like a little plant in the house. He really didn't need me. but he needed me. It was so funny. It was crazy. I'm like, why did you even marry? I asked that question a million times. Why did you marry me if, it doesn't look like you really needed me? But he didn't know how to express it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So if you're an independent woman, you will have to allow the Lord to humble you so you can submit to your husband and be who God has called you to. Even if you make whatever amount of money, it will not matter. Like Pastor said, you will still look at him like the head of the household. He makes the decisions. He comes to you and you guys talk about it, but you trust him to make the decisions and pray that he makes the right decisions and lead. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Internet. And I think it goes back to what we we're saying. It's all about the posture of the woman who's making the money, or maybe their ambition. It's all about their posture, right? Not physical posture, but just how they show up with their husband, right? Can you make him feel like he's still head? Can you make him feel like he is leader, right? And if you can do that, then the money wouldn't really matter, right? But it's just a matter of, does that high achieving woman have it in her to actually show up for a husband, and he feels like he's needed. He feels like he's respected, because like the Bible says, why husbands should love their wives, but wives should respect their husbands. To respect your husband, the definition of respect means you admire your husband, right? So if you're a woman making $1 million a year, can you admire your husband who makes $30,000 a year? Can you admire that, right? If you can't admire that, then that's where it's going to get really tough, right? Go ahead, Doyle. You want to say something before we
Yes,
wrap up?
I want to add to that. I think it really just depends on the type of men, and I think that like women need to be highly selective of the type of men that they do marry, like even if they're ambitious, because sometimes it's not always, oh, the woman is showing up in a way where it makes the men feel small. Sometimes it is the insecurity of the men themselves that they're not, able to I guess live with a woman that is making more than them. And the woman may not be showing up as, oh, I'm making more than you, so I'm gonna lead this relationship. Like
Yeah,
I'm
that too. So
I'm
like, yeah.
saying
So like,
all
if he
I'm
can't
saying
handle
all
that, yeah.
yeah, I'm saying all of it to say that it's very circumstantial, and it depends on the person that you're choosing as your spouse. That everybody needs to pray. The woman needs to pray. The man needs to pray. And the and for a woman that is is ambitious or independent, she needs to pray for a man that is also gentle and patient, because there are women out there where they don't really care that much how much a man is making, as long as he's able to be sustainable, to self-sustain himself. They really want the man to show up in other ways and lead in other ways, and they will submit to that. But there are men out there that they can't get past the fact that the woman makes more than them, and so they feel little, next to her. So I think that it's really, circumstantial. It's not just, oh, women need to humble themselves. I think that, both men and women need to pray to find the right purpose partner to marry, and to be highly selective, to let God lead them in choosing their partner.
And that's in the dating process that comes out, right? So if a man is insecure about the lady he's making in terms of how much money she's making, that's going to come out, right? Because if this lady values ambition and striving and finances, and she's dating somebody who's insecure about that, it's just not going to work, right? They just need not to even get together, right? It's just not going to work. And a lot of this is just stereotypes, because how the internet portrays it, right? A lot of these shows about women say, I won't make a man who makes less than this. It's like, it's just these stereotypes is just propagated a little bit. But if we get back to God's heart around this, where we truly see money as not the treasure, right? We see our relationship with God as the treasure, right? And we see our growing in Christ together, then money doesn't become a defining factor, right? Money so like I was listening to a Lecrae podcast. He was interviewing some artists, other Christian artists, and they said something I never thought about. And he says this one artist compared the women he meet to drunk girls. And the reason he said that was like a lot of women he meet, they're drunk on his fame, right? They're drunk on the amount of money he makes in the gospel music industry. And so they're drunk on that. They don't really like him. They're drunk on him. And because they're drunk, he just looks better, right? And he said, my dad told me never to date a drunk woman because you could take advantage of her, right? And so what he was saying is that any woman he meets that's drunk on his fame, he doesn't want to date her because he don't want to take advantage of her, right? So that's to me, that spoke to his level of maturity, understanding that. And then when he said that, I thought about it in the other way around. Just like fame and money makes a woman drunk, looks can make a man drunk, right? To the woman, right? It could be the same type of way, right? So, I think this is where everybody really needs to be rooted and grounded in God, right? And not let looks or money see things that's not there, right? And operate in ways that we shouldn't operate in, you know. So I think it really takes a grounding. So yeah.
Pastor, that you speaking a word right there. I'm telling you, because men, it is so very true. Men are so visual. It's almost like I've met men who are like, especially older men, not the stereotype, but older men who are so enamored with the idea of a thing or just wanting companionship. And it's like there's no substance in anything that you claim you want to pursue other than just that outward thing. And it's like, yeah, it's very real. Yeah, what you're saying is very, very on point.
Yeah. So it's kind of going with the Doan said. We all got to be selective. Right? We all got to be selective. Have the Holy Spirit, working with us, talking to us, telling us who we need to be with, who we not need to be with. And the Holy Spirit knows the future too. He knows how to connect people if we allow him to do his thing, right? So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap us up. Anybody want a final word before we wrap up tonight? Toy, you want a final word since you started us off in this path? Toy.
Yeah, everybody have a great night and take a break from this conversation.
And most of y'all stayed. We haven't lost count too much, right? This is amazing, right? I saw, we don't want to talk about this, but everybody's still here listening. So this must be the sign to Stephanie that we need to fix this, right?
I do have one thing.
Hey, go ahead, Dawn.
Anybody that is over 50 and have a son that is in their 30s, y'all need to invite him to this podcast.
Invite him, yeah. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. They need to take a listen to this. And if you guys got sons in their 30s, and because I did a men's only marriage boot camp, and it was just about 10 of us, maybe married men, and at the end of that boot camp, I mean, people said their marriages got changed at the end of that thing. So it's something about men coming together. So I'm all for it. So if you guys got some men in their 30s and want to get together, we can spend 6 weeks together. We can just talk about relationships and marriage. Let's reach out. Let's make it happen. So yeah, let's make it happen. So, all right, let's pray. Let's wrap up. If you guys want to partner with Church for Entrepreneurs, just go to churchforentrepreneurs.com/partner. And let me drop that link in the chat. Yeah, so churchforentrepreneurs.com/partner. And let's just process what we talked about here. Talk to your girlfriends, your boyfriends about this stuff, and let's see some change relationships, guys. Let's see things get better. At least in the body of Christ, it should get better. I'm not worried about the world, but in the body of Christ, it should get better. And especially in here, I know we got a lot of ambitious women who are going to do great things. So I want to make sure you guys are prepped to meet the men, especially the single ones, to meet the men who can match that ambition too, right? So yeah. Hope you enjoyed the replay of Open Forum, and I prayed it was a blessing to you. Remember, if you ever want to join us live, just go to churchforentrepreneurs.com, go to the calendar, look for Open Forum, and grab that Zoom information. To help us spread this podcast, please rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast player. And before we wrap up, I would like you to consider partnering with Church for Entrepreneurs. Church for Entrepreneurs' mission is to equip believers around the world, and it's partners like you who allow this mission to go forward. So go to churchforentrepreneurs.com/partner and partner with us if you believe this ministry is a blessing and will be a blessing to others. Thank you to all our current partners. Thank you guys for sowing into this ministry. All right, you guys be blessed, and I'll talk to you later.